Hi guys, thank you for coming to check out Utopia 9. I want to spend a few minutes and give you a quick overview of how to use the product. So the first thing we want to do is to obviously get Unity started. And once you get Unity started and you've installed the Utopia 9 package, if you come up to the Utopia Works menu and select Utopia 9 and Level Builder, first thing you're going to get is a little bit of a warning about ProGrids. We love ProGrids, but keep in mind that you may see some issues with ProGrids trying to compete for snapping. Also be sure to enable the lighting for your scene view, which can be done by clicking on this little light icon here. So this will, alright. Next thing we're going to look at is the editor window we have for Utopia 9. You see you can kind of dock it anywhere you want and it resizes. I like to use it over here on the just right next to the inspector view. Now we're going to take a look at grid snapping. So the first thing we're going to do is create a new group. We do this by clicking the add new group button right here. And once we do that, you'll see over in the hierarchy view that we have a new Utopia 9 group. And this places a game object at 000 in the world axis. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a blast door to the scene, and we do that by clicking the blast door icon, and we're going to zoom in it on a little bit. And if you look at the inspector, you'll see that again this is perfectly zeroed in the world. So now let's add a blast door frame. So we'll do that by clicking here, and we'll zoom in again, and you'll see that it's placed it right on top of the blast door. So let's add a few more, let's add a hallway segment here, and let's see, it looks good. So now let's add just a few more pieces to the scene and kind of build it out a little bit. Now if you look over in the hierarchy view, you'll see that we're adding all this stuff. So yeah, let's zoom in a little bit and take a look. Yeah, looks good, all snapped good. Yeah. So if we look in the hierarchy view again, you'll see that all the prefabs we have are pre-lit, and we do that a lot with these light poles. So here, if you kind of look, you know, we've got this light object. Let's look at another one here if we zoom in on it. So all the hallway arch pieces are pre-lit, and we'll look at lighting here in a few minutes. Okay, now let's take a look at lighting with Utopia 9. So back in our scene, we're going to take a look at the lighting settings we have. We have lighting color, we have texture color, and specular color. First thing we need to do is to select the group that we want to modify. So we'll go over to the hierarchy view and click that group, and kind of zoom out and make sure that we selected the right group. And we'll click the retarget button here. And if you look, the attached to is now set to that Utopia 9 group. So now we're going to pick a color, and we're affecting the lighting color here, so let's click that and then click refresh, and you'll see that the lighting is now the color that we selected. So we'll kind of take a look at the scene and see how it looks. Alright, zoom around a bit. Yeah, it's looking right. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is take a look at the texture color. So let's go over here and let's just pick something in the blue space just to see, and we'll click refresh. And pretty dramatic change, but we've affected the overall texture color. I like to use something around here in the gray, darker grays. Okay, so now we've got the lighting and the texture. So let's look at the specular. Let's play with something in the green space just for a second to see. So we'll refresh, and you'll see that small reflective on the surface there. So let's play with the specular strength and just see what we're getting. Okay, yeah, maybe that's a little much, so we'll come back to here. Alright, that's more ideal. Let's go back and change the lighting color. I'm not too crazy about that red. Let's see where we get here. Yeah, now we're looking better. Let's go with a bluish specular, and let's refresh that. And now we're starting to look more like I had in mind. Let's play with that specular strength a little bit. Zoom out, and there we go. So now our scene is pre-lit with the lighting settings that we do in the Utopia 9 editor. Yeah, looking good. Let's talk about retargeting. This is the retarget button, and you can see that we have nothing attached right now, so we're going to build a new group, and you'll see that we've got this group, and we're going to click retarget, and it changes our attach to. Now we're going to build a pretty simple scene, just a little door and a couple of hallway segments and a door. Alright. Now we're going to go and retarget the group. So we'll hit the group again and hit retarget again. And now the target is set on the entire group instead of a single piece in the group. So we can rotate it around and move it back and forth, and we're moving the entire group. We can also hit the 000 to actually center it dead center in 000 space. So let's make another group and add, well, pretty much just like the other group. Yeah. And let's go and retarget our original, and we'll move it. So you see how targeting lets you select what controls are going to be modified by the options you use in the Utopia editor. Okay. All right, well, let's delete this group. And let's select just this blast door, and let's retarget that. So now when we rotate, we're only retargeting, or we've only retargeted to that one object, and we're just modifying it. And we'll move it around. All right. We're going to take a look at moving pieces. So first, let's take a look at our buttons. We have our retarget button, we have our rotate left button, our new group button, rotate right, and refresh. We also have our reset to 0 button. We have our move in the X, our move in the Y, these are plus and minus, and move in the Z. So let's do this. Let's disable zooming for a second, and let's add a new hallway segment, and let's just double click on it so we can go to it. Alright, so you see our target is set to the hallway, and let's rotate it, and it's rotating 90 degrees, and then we'll rotate the other direction 90 degrees, and let's zero it out. Let's put it in the middle of the world, and let's move it. So see here the move distance. This tells us how far and or the distance in which we're going to move. So let's set it to 1. So we're going to move in the world unit of 1 X unit at a time, and then we'll move back. And let's set it down to a quarter of a world unit. There we go. And now you see that it's moving less. So this is a nice way to make fine adjustments to your pieces if you need to. So we can move it in the Z and the Y. Alright, we'll just kind of move it around a bit and zero it out, and rotate it around. Alright. Alright, now we're going to look at the zooming features. So by default, zooming is enabled. So as we add pieces, you'll see how the camera will follow and zoom in on the pieces as they're added. Now this option will let you enable or disable the zoom feature, and this will let you adjust how far in the zoom tracking occurs. So at 50, you'll see that it zooms out pretty far, and you can see things happening from a far distance. And here at the middle, you see about where it tracks. And if you take it all the way down, you'll see it gets in pretty close as it's zooming. Now, if you disable the feature entirely and you start adding prefabs, you'll notice that the camera doesn't track, which can be useful in some situations to where you want to see very small movement happen. Alright, let's take a look at the assets that come with Utopia 9. If we look at the Utopia 9 folder, you'll see that it comes with many subfolders. The first one we were going to take a look at is going to be the decals folder, and in this folder we've added some basic decals that you can decorate the scene with. In the demo scenes, you've got some basic demos. We put our documentation in the documentation folder with a PDF that explains everything. The editor is the code that generates the editor that you use on screen, Here are the prefabs that you will use from the editor. Feel free to also just drag these on screen and use them as you wish. You'll notice that they do come pre-lit with some lighting features. Now we're going to look at the props folder. We've shipped a few basic props that come with it. We got a computer terminal here and a cryogenic tube here. We've got a little sentry drone. We've got the light that we use in the scenes. And you can just drag these prefabs onto the editor and play with them as you like. There's the cryo tube and the computer terminal again. These are fairly low poly. Feel free to use them however you want. The little sentry drone, and again the lighting fixture that we use. This the robot arm's kind of neat. It's actuated in 3 or 4 separate pieces, so you can do some pretty cool animation with that. We keep some images in the resources folder that we use in the editor. The scripts folder, we have a script for the doors, so as your character controller is moving around and contacts the door, it'll open and close. We have this folder that we keep our custom shaders in, some basic skyboxes we're shipping with, and some basic terrains that we're going to be shipping with, like this lunar terrain, which will be fun to play with. So the last feature we're going to look at is going to be the shaders that we've shipped with Utopia 9. If you look into your assets in the shaders folder here, you'll see that there's a few basic shaders. You've got this new shader, which is in the beta. We'll be removing that in the release. The main one to notice is going to be Utopia 9 shown here. And if you look here, it has a few textures that it uses. It's got the main texture for the diffuse channel. We have a specular channel that we're using here. Any of your bump or normal map data will go here. We do have parallaxing and ambient occlusion built into the shader as well. So you can see this shader used in the editor resources materials folder here. So these are the base materials that are used for the components in Utopia 9. So if we look at, we look at this one here for the floor base. As we saw earlier, when you're using the color changing and the color editing features that are shown here, that's actually changing that in the source materials as well as the specular shine. We've assigned some controls for height map as well. And you'll see here the materials that we use are placed in the base, the specular, and the normal. This particular one doesn't have a height map or occlusion map, but they will be there when you're ready to use them. So that's basically how you want to use that shader. We will have some different skin packs coming out, so if you want to go in and swap out the base diffuse with a different one, you can just browse to it here, and there you go. So again, thank you for taking a few minutes to view this tutorial on using Utopia 9. We really have enjoyed the feedback that we've gotten on this early version, and we're really excited to hear about how you guys are going to use it. Just get in contact with us if you have any questions. Thanks again.